Cool, so this is the NWC Show, episode 60, and if you would like to introduce yourself.
Hi guys, Andy Donnelly here from Brit Wrestling Fan Podcast. Find me on Twitter, Brit Wrestle PC, on YouTube, Brit Wrestling Fan Podcast, and we've also got a group on Facebook, Brit Wrestling Fans. So you find me anywhere there.
My Northers links will be in the description below, and as I said, my podcast isn't professional. We're not as sleek, smart, or anything. We just talk shit about wrestling pretty much. So, first question we always start these ways, the exact same one. What was that moment you were like, this is my jam? These two guys wearing pants, hoiled up is what I want to watch. What was that moment for you?
Oh, mate, it's probably going to be the British Bulldogs. I must have been about, I don't remember seeing them live, but there was a little charity shop, a May Logan charity shop when I was a kid, and I went past it with me nan, and I remember I was very young, must have been about 4 or 5, and we seen this video, and I was like, oh, what's that video? And it was about dogs. I thought it was a dog because I seen obviously there was the two of them on the front with Matilda, and got the VHS and took her home. And I was like, what's this? So that was it then. I was on to meet Dad, fellow jock like yourself, Barry. And I was saying to him, Dad, what's this? And he was like, you ever seen the wrestling? I was like, no. And he was like, okay, it's on every Saturday morning. You used to have Wrestling Challenge and then WWF Superstars after that. And then that was just me, mate. I was hooked.
See, I got into it around about the Attitude Era kind of point when it was like, obviously, Austin, Taker, Triple H, Rock, all these guys coming up. But I was a little bit younger than that, and I remember first seeing it, and I was like, "What's this?" Just standing watching it in my mum's friend's house on the TV, and it's just ever since like I seen then, I always knew of it, but I didn't really get into it. But then the Attitude stuff, like 97, 98, when I was still like a kid, just the toys and everything was everywhere, so I just like was balls deep in it pretty much. You couldn't get me away from it my whole life since.
Do you know what, mate? I always say, like, the way my life panned out it's like my life was destined to be perfect for wrestling. Because when I was a little kid, it was like Hulk Hogan, the Superstar, and Ultimate Warrior, and I was a little 6-7-year-old eating it all up, like, yeah. And then next week, I start getting a little bit of hair, and I turn into a raging hormonal teenager. Bam, the fucking Attitude Era kicked into it, and there's Sable with the things out, and I'm just like, yes! So it just kind of worked out perfect for me, like, from, this little kid to the Attitude. Like, wrestling kind of give me what I needed as a come up, you know what I mean?
Well, I think that's obviously probably one of the best ways. I always remember as a kid with the magazines, you'd get like the full centerfold things. That was a weird.
The DVDs they used to do where they used to have like the Divas on location and that, mate. They were Boston.
It was so weird. I remember because I was still a bit too young for when they were still kind of coming out, and I was like, why did they release them? And then when I turned like as a teenager more, I was like, oh, I know why they released them. But it's a weird coming of age time in wrestling when you're like a kid and you're just kind of enjoying it, and then you turn into a teenager and you're like, oh, right, I can see where it's coming from.
Definitely. That's it. Like you see Trish or someone and you're like, oh, she's great, and then you hit puberty and it's like, ooh.
Well, so how long would you say you've been a fan of the business? Like, just since you were a kid, like we were saying there, or?
I mean, I'm 36 now, so you're talking 32 years.
That's like you feel like a really old man when you're saying, so I just turned 30 this year, and when I'm talking to people and I'm like, I used to VHS and stuff like that, and they're like, what's that? And I'm like, why you people? What? Just Google it. Just Google a VHS. Don't act it. Don't make me feel any older than what I'm at.
Remember, you used to put the sellotape over the end of it so you could re-record on.
And then you would need to like try and it would break, or like if you were playing with a wee lid bit in the top of it when you were a kid, and it would break off. You just try and put it back into. So the next person that opened it was their fault, so you didn't get shouted at off your mum and that. But it was a different world. And then you look now, you've got the network, which has got everything. And if you add on the Impact Wrestling one, you've pretty much got almost every wrestling show that's happened in the past 20 years in America.
Do you ever see the network going, like in the UK, obviously the network's different than the Peacock site you've got in America at the moment. Do you reckon you'll ever sell it over here?
I don't know, man. I think if it did, it would probably be to Amazon or something, wouldn't it? Because Amazon's probably bigger than Netflix in the UK at the minute.
Yeah.
And I would say WWE would look at it like that, and it would be so handy if they did, by the way, because I can get my toilet roll, can get my food, can buy whatever I want, and watch wrestling at the same time. That's going to be amazing for me.
Alexa, play SummerSlam 1998. And I can get you some bottle and a couple of packs and some bars.
Just if anybody's listening with Alexa, we're really sorry about that. They just ordered. But I know, man, I think Amazon's already got some wrestling shows. The OVW, they've got some OVW stuff, which it's there. I think they're probably going to move into that market, aren't they? Because it's still money to make, and WWE currently look like they want to sell off that kind of digital side of it, since they've turned it into making millions a month.
Do you know what somebody was saying with the way they've done all the corporate restructuring? I don't want to go into too much detail about it, but people keep thinking that they might sell eventually.
I think it's still probably like 5 years away or something. But for me, I would say that was what they were doing, like try to cut down on costs. Plus, they're going to they want to bring back. Well, it looks like they want to bring back Braun Strowman. They just let him go and then hire him back at a cheaper rate. Like it's just like, are these guys not protected or nothing? Just where else are they going to go? Because nobody's going to pay for.
No.
Unless it's AEW who pays for anybody at the minute. But we'll go into that eventually. Man, what is your take? No, we'll just go into it just now. What's your take on modern wrestling? What do you think? What do you think about AEW? We'll start there first, since I mentioned them.
I like the stuff I like and the stuff I don't like about it. I watch it. I do watch it. I think it's a great program to watch every week. I think the storytelling is brilliant. It reminds me of old school WWF, especially like maybe even even going back to the early 90s, where they'll build, like for instance the Hangman Page, Kenny Omega stuff at the moment. It's like they're doing such a good job of building them two without actually putting them in a ring together. There's little talks that go on, then they're using bits of each other's factions to kind of build, and then, it looks like they're going to have a 6-man tag at one. It's next week or this week, it might be. And then, but they're building to it slowly. I really like that,
I think the storytelling can either be you get it like that, you can understand that they're building to it, kind of taking their time with it. But sometimes for me and for other people, like I do like the way they tell some stories, but other stories it just feels like it doesn't make any sense. Or like you need to watch the YouTube show for 6 weeks ago, or you should have watched this one Dynamite for August 2019. You're like, wait, what? Just show me a package. Just tell me what I'm meant to know. And then
but that's how they'll get more views on them shows if you've got to start watching all of it. I mean, the perfect one was the MJF Chris Jericho, where when he started the Pinnacle and stuff, it was like it had me scrambling back because he was mentioning stuff. He's like, I said this, and I'm like, what? And I'm going back and looking at it, and it was he planted the seeds weeks ago, and it was brilliant. It's good storytelling. I mean, I get what you mean. If especially in our age, and we're meant to be the age demographic that they're targeting, by the way, the 30 to 40 age range, isn't it? Or the 25 to 40 age range. It's like, we've got fucking jobs in that. Come on, do you know what I mean? Keep it all in one place. So yeah, I do get you on that, mate.
But I do think it's probably one of the best wrestling shows to watch that you can get on TV at the minute. The worst thing is the TV deal in the UK is terrible as well. Like it's ITV Player is terrible. Like just put it on Amazon. Give it to them better than ITV. If they charge for it, it'd be a lot better than ITV Player.
I think eventually they'll end up on Sky Sports. I think Sky Sports will swoop in for it eventually. Especially with BT back in WWE as much as they are. I can see Sky Sports. It's basically it's a no-brainer, isn't it, for them to end up there? I think in the end.
Definitely, man. I think the ITV deal would be good if it was ITV2, like now, like 10 o'clock on a Thursday or whatever on ITV2 would be cool. But it's because it's ITV3, isn't it? ITV4, whatever it is.
ITV4, yeah. ITV4, yeah.
The one that you never go check. Like, it's that far up in the Freeview channels. You're like, nah, I'm not going that far. It's too far. That's when you start going into like channels trying to sell you stuff and that. Plus, who really watches TV anymore? Because you've got so much online content to watch, which is, I get why they do their YouTube shows, but I've honestly watched one of their like AEW Dark. I think it was AEW Dark Elevation. I watched one,
I've never caught one of them, mate. Never caught one.
And I'm sitting here. I only watched it because Sting and Darby Allin was on it, and I'm a huge Sting mark. But I'm making content for YouTube. I'm on YouTube a lot. I still don't sit and watch it. I'm like, I just can't get into it. I don't know why. Like, it just doesn't feel like it means anything.
Yeah, no, okay, yeah. And that's the thing is, I suppose, is when they first started out, it done well, but they're having a new show soon as well. So for me personally, I feel like they're in danger of oversaturating it.
I think it's the same way WWE into it. Like, WWE have changed it so it does feel like the main roster against NXT, so they do feel too fresh, which is cool. But AEW's just, they're still learning that. Like, well, when they get the Friday show, it's going to be like 4 shows a week. Plus, then if they have a large event, then a pay-per-view or a special like Fyre Fest, Fighter Fest, whatever it's called, the 2-week parts, like a special Dynamite. That's like a lot to try and book, and booking in advance, and then win-loss matter as well. Like, so people are getting 89 wins on Dark, and it's like, but those wins don't matter the same as the ones up there. But
I mean, look at Bobby Lashley on WWE, fucking lost everything, mate. The next minute he's the champion, so.
Well, I'm nitpicking, like, because I want to see this be so good. Like, I don't want it to feel like Impact or TNA did when they bought everybody in. There's, like, Tony Khan sometimes feels like he's just buying wrestling figures, like Sting, Big Show. Let me just get these guys in. I always say that, but I would do the same if I had his money. I'd be like...
The thing is, though, one thing I will say about that, I've seen stuff like that. I don't think it was you seeing when you put about Tony Khan with the wrestling figures. And the one thing is that I don't agree with that in a way, because he has used, like, Big Show, he's put him on Elevation, he's done other things with him, I believe, do you know what I mean? Sting, he's put with Darby Allin. He's utilised some of them to get the new stars over, and that's what I'm liking, do you know what I mean? It's not kind of...
I just think, see, with Big Show at Disney, you don't really see him, because he's like you said, you've not really watched that YouTube channel. You know he's there, but you're just like, ah. Then Sting with Darby Allin, I feels like a weird pairing for me. I love both of those guys. I think I'm a huge Darby Allin fan, same as Adam Page, but I just feel like Sting and Darby Allin, Disney, like, Darby Allin's got this poor, weird, crazy thing, and then Sting was never known for being weird or crazy, but it's just like two face paint guys, let's just put them together. Yeah. But like you say, it does help get people over, so it's...
On the flip side of it, though, it could be as well as they're looking at it and thinking, this Darby Allin's really good, as we both know. But for the casual fan, they don't know that. And by putting Sting there, you might drive the casual fans to watch the Darby Allin stuff, because, you know, you even think, you know yourself, mate, same as I do, your wording on YouTube especially is very, very important, isn't it? You know, for you to get the right kind of people searching for your videos and stuff. So if they've got Darby Allin with Sting, someone searches Sting, it comes up with the Darby Allin coffin drops and match or whatever. So it could drive people more interested.
Definitely, man. I just think it's just some wee things that they do, like Orange Cassidy and Sting having a little thing. Kind of, it just, I get the comedy stuff out, but I don't like it. And I'm like, why are you doing this to like somebody like Sting? Like, you can do it with whoever. And then, I don't know, I feel like they try and do so much. Like, they're trying to appease every aspect of the wrestling fan, instead of from just going, you know what, we're going to focus on, we're going to have our guys being, these are the hardcore guys, these are the main event guys, the middle. You don't really get anybody. Like, everybody just seems to go.
Yeah, the hard thing
about it. Negative. It's weird.
Yeah, because the thing is, you know, I get what you're saying about everyone's got the place and stuff like that, but if you have it too much like that, then what happens is you're going to pigeonhole people that are going to be on the hardcore bit or the whatever bit and stuff, and how are you going to make new stars? Or, you know, with the roundabout that wrestling goes on, you can't have the same champion forever. It's got to be, you know, evolution. You might go back to the person who was champion a year ago or whatever, but you've got to have that evolution. So by moving them rounds and stuff like that, you're hopefully going to hit the ones that you want. And, you know, AEW isn't WWE. WWE have always had a pool of top talent, and you know, and then the mid-carders, and then they'll find somebody else that'll fit into that top card. But with AEW is, they've brought in these ex-WWE stars. Jericho was a great move when they brought him in, because he was just going to bring guys straight away to it no matter what. But all these other stars that they've got, the likes of Hangman Page, you know, when they first come to AEW, they probably didn't know Hangman Page was going to be as great as he was. Kenny Omega maybe, but, you know, Hangman Page, Brian Cage, you know, the list goes on, mate, and it's like, how do you get them up there unless you keep on doing the round robins with them?
I mean, I agree with you there, but you can put people in mid cards, low cards, hardcore positions, and then move people up so main event can come down. The WWE don't do that at all. They fail to do that. Like, they fail to bring the main event guys back down. That's the problem there that I have with AIM. But AEW just don't do that at all, which they need to do because it builds story. Because if you've got a guy that's 1 week's going against, I like, for instance, Jungle Boy, 1 week's just opening tag match or he's on Dark most of the time, and then he's against Omega. It's like, well, he's not going to beat Omega, so what's the point of me getting invested in this? But then WWE works better to build like you buying into the person, as even if it's this character shit, I hate this, but they try their best to work better at it. But I just think both of them can learn from each other. AEW is still mega young, but so I'm nitpicking. But I watch them, I'm a fan of them. I heard they're going to do a UK tour. I'm pretty much Googling it every day, just waiting for them to announce it so I can go.
I'll be there as soon as that happens, I'll tell you that for a fact. I'll definitely be there. I reckon they'll probably do a pay-per-view over here at some point, which would be awesome.
I think we're missing pay-per-views over here because it's been gone since, 2002, 2003? It's been away for a while.
We haven't had a fucking pay-per-view since 1992, mate, really, have we?
I know. Like a main pay-per-view, but I think AEW just needs to like slow down a little bit with the 4 shows, and then. But I think even the 2 main shows that people will be watching might help with this guy's on Rampage, this guy's here on Dynamite, and moving people around like that. It's just there's so many people that's gone there. Then if you get Bryan and CM Punk that go, which is going to be huge. It just feels like pushing people down. These guys go in, but I love watching their show. But
it's like that near Go-Go. Do you know what a talent they've got there? And it's like you need to build it. If you're going to do a UK pay-per-view or a UK tour, you need to build that guy because he's an Olympic medalist for Great Britain. And, I'm sure we both knew who he was before he went to AEW. I certainly didn't know who he was. And it's like, build him and bring him over, get your international stars, because one thing WWE's always been good at is getting from different markets, do you know what I mean, and bringing them in, and, right back to the Bulldogs back in the day. They've always been good at that.
Definitely, man. I think it's a learning experience for people like Tony Khan and stuff. I always just say it feels like collecting Pokemon cards or something, because he's just picking up like guys that he probably would like, oh, this guy will get star power. But then, like, if you think about it, Sting's he's good within wrestling fans, but people wouldn't have watched Sting in Impact Wrestling, TNA, because the casual fans no sat down and went, I'm going to watch Impact, because they don't know what it is. They've not seen him since 2001 when WCW closed. So it's the same as Big Show as well. Like, we're going to put him on commentary on this other show. I don't want him on commentary in the main show because I don't think he'd be amazing at it. Or like Mark Henry, and you've Christian, Matt Hardy competing against each other. I just think sometimes it feels like WWE in some ways, but then AEW help with, like you said, storytelling a little bit. Obviously they mess up sometimes, but you kind of give people more creative control. It's fine. But then on the flip side, what we're going to talk to you about now is WWE is they don't give people creative control. It's like, this is what you say.
Yeah.
And
it seems to be we haven't got a happy medium at the moment, have we, mate? We've got one company that won't let people say fuck all, and you've got another company that just let them run themselves. It's like we need that kind of in the middle, don't we?
Can we not just like give them a rough guideline and then also like show them where they're going? Like, you've got WWE at the minute. It's just, especially SmackDown's cool because Roman Reigns is there. Apart from, I was talking about this the other day, it's Roman Reigns, and then if you're just a casual fan, which is the biggest market, people like us that watch wrestling, that like the figures and the DVDs and sit and watch like the 1992 SummerSlam and that kind of stuff. Casual fan doesn't care about what happened in Japan 2 weeks ago and stuff like that. But it's like SmackDown doesn't have anybody else but Roman Reigns, and that's WWE. Obviously, you've got John Cena coming in. It's like, well, he's not going to. John Cena wins. I don't think anybody really thinks he's going to hold it for a long period of time. But then you look at Raw, and it's just like, what's happening here?
I know this is going to sound real more than mate. John Cena will eventually win the title again, but I don't believe he will go over Flair while Flair's still alive. I don't think for Vince to do that until, and I know that sounds real morbid, but I feel like Vince wouldn't want Ric Flair to be alive to see his titles get took over, if that makes sense.
I think it makes sense, but I'm not too sure. I think, see, if it was me, just to get the belt off Roman Reigns for a bit, like let Roman Reigns get the Rock back and let Roman Reigns do like a feud with him. Give it to Cena. Do you know what I mean? Like just let him keep it, but he's not going to keep it. Roman's going to win, and
so yeah,
drop it to Finn Balor.
I'm just hoping that because to be honest, you know what? I'm going to tell you the quick story here. So I'm really pissed off if The Rock comes back in November because I threw all my eggs in a basket that The Rock's going to be at WrestleMania Hollywood. So I'm actually going to WrestleMania Hollywood in 2023. I've got it booked. I'm on there with Wrestle Travel. I'm going with, and I was thinking in my head, they're going to do it, but because it's Hollywood, they'll build the whole top head of the table story. I had it in my head that The Rock's daughter would get dragged in from NXT to get involved in the whole build-up to it and stuff. I was thinking, it's definitely going to be Hollywood. And then they say, oh, he's back in November. And I'm like, fuck. And then now he said he was doing an interview for that Jungle Express film that he's doing. And they're like, have you got any plans to go back to WWE at the moment? And he went, I know we had discussions, and he went, no, nothing. But you don't know what's on. Like, do you know what, mate? I hope something happens at this WrestleMania coming up because I feel like we need it after the kinds of years we've had and whatever else. But don't go in the ring until Hollywood's so on there.
Man, I think it's the story's there for The Rock and Roman Reigns to have like a Hogan Rock match, isn't it? Like the passing of the torch to the new guy. But the only problem is they pass the torch and it's who else is there to help? Because if you look at Raw, for instance, which is one of probably the worst show of the week, which it's the longest show, and it feels like, well, I'm sure you sometimes just sit there just crying at it all the time, but it's like, why? How can they not just learn from? They've got a SmackDown show, NXT, that are doing stuff good, and then they just consistently.
Do you know what, mate? I was looking today and I watched Raw this morning. While I was sitting in work, and I just kept thinking to myself, how on earth are you putting across a number one contenders match with the fucking champion? You have to beat the champion to then get a title for the champion. What's that all about?
Man, the question in my review this morning, I said it as well, was who, if the number one contender won, so this isn't a work, right? We're meant to know it's a work. So if the number one contender won, the champion won, who does he face? He is the number one contender. Does he just face his cell, get the weekend off at SummerSlam? Doesn't make any sense. It's like you're just, and then we had two of those matches as well. You had a non-title match for.
Yeah, three of them.
Three. Like, what was the point? Like, and I just, you watch that show and you're like, what is it? I don't know. Like, the women's tag team division is a joke as well. I've been saying they should get rid of those women's tag team belts and bring back, add in like a women's IC belt or women's United States champion belt or something like that. Because then you can move people up and down what we're talking about. You can,
like a European belt or something like that to do for the women.
Bring Charlotte down, get her out there, bring a few people up. But no, just.
You know what? The tag team division as a whole is on its arse, and at the moment, I'm loving RK-Bro for that reason because whatever happened to, as you know, I was saying before, the Bulldogs, Demolition, you know, Rockers, there was loads of them, mate. Bushwhackers, you know, the list, natural disasters, the list goes on and on and on. But now it's kind of like, we've got nothing for you, we've got nothing for you. There you go. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's no kind of theme behind the tag teams no more. And for me personally, it's like, you know, I know they've got the Viking Raiders, but how stupid does the Viking Raiders look against AJ Styles and Omos? Do you know what I mean? It's like you've got these mystical fucking Viking Raiders against two normal people, and it's like, you know, it's like Nikki AHS as well. It's another one. Love Nikki to bits. Love the fact that she's won the title, but you've got Nikki almost a superhero versus Charlotte Flair, and towards as much as people might not have liked the this promo she cut at the end of the match, and she's like, I almost got there. I thought it was a bit thingy, but at the same time, it's like, it still makes me feel like she's a real person against a real person instead of, you know, some kind of weird club universe where, you know, superheroes versus, you know what I mean?
I just think the superhero gimmick, man, it's like, I get people go, oh, it was our own idea and stuff like that, and it's like, but it's fine to say that maybe you should tweak it, try and do something different. It obviously got her over, and she's won the belt, but she's only holding the belt because Rhea Ripley and Charlotte are kind of having a feud, but adding her into it some way. Because nobody, if she comes out in SummerSlam, that's going to be a surprise. But you're like, okay, so when's Rhea or Charlotte going to take it off her? Or is Asuka going to come up? Becky Lynch returning? Like, what's...
This is where you could build a really good story with it, though, because you could turn around and say, you know, when she wins at SummerSlam, because I reckon she will win it, whether that's Becky interrupts or not. I hope not that it's not Becky that does that. I hope it's just she gets a clean win. And then it's like, I overcome the odds, you know, I'm not almost a superhero. I am a superhero. And then, you know, we can go off from there, can't we? And because that's the bit that gets me is almost a superhero. Okay, well, you're almost a superhero, but you defied the odds and you've won the title and you've done all this. So why are you still almost? Because you're not almost champion, you are the champion. So it should go from almost to a superhero. Do you know what I mean?
And that's what kind of, like that promo at the end as well, when it was like, I almost bet you, like, kind of just like, I tried, and it's like, but you're the champion, you should be coming out and being like, well, I'm another superhero now.
Yeah, but I feel like that's probably where we're building now, because, you know, I feel like at some point she'll even say herself, or, you know, I know Charlotte's already referenced it, but it's like, you only beat me on a fluke because I was there. And I think they're building to this final thing where it's like she wins clean, and it's like, I'm not almost a superhero. I never almost win. I won a lot, and you know that feel. And the thing is, let's face it, mate. One thing you got to remember with WWE, especially nowadays, is there's something for they're trying to cater for everybody. Do you know what I mean? So
I think again that's the same problem with AEW is WWE are trying to cater for everybody from the ages of like 3 to like 98, but AEW is narrowing it down, but they're trying to cater to everybody within like the casual wrestling fan, the wrestling fan that's in the indies, the one that's into Japanese stuff. So it's like the same issues that both companies are facing, just WWE's doing it for age ranges and AEW's doing it for like types of wrestling that you like. I just think it'll take time for it to come out of like the Attitude Era. You know, I was a kid growing up in that, and I remember studying with my friends, walking around as Undertaker, doing the DX sign, and it's like you mimic the like so what somebody being cooler, but wrestling isn't cool now. Like people don't like you're not going to turn wrestling on and be like, no, what's really cool? This guy getting ate by zombies.
Yeah, God. Well, the thing is, for WWE, they're a publicly traded company, and they can go back to their shareholders and go, "Wait, we just got $5 million to get Miz ate by zombies on the floor." Do you know what I mean? And you know, so
I think it's just there is obviously traded companies that can do stuff a little bit more risky, but I think WWE's just like we're making more money than ever, so we're just. And I'm like, where are you? It must be advertising because everything's kind of doing like before the pandemic, ticket sales were doing, views were doing. It's like, where are you getting all this money for? But so obviously everybody's had to sit and watch them. So,
and the thing is, mate, they make so much money out of merchandise, and you know the Peacock deal. They made a lot of money out of that. They still make money off the network worldwide. You know, they're making money left, right, and centre. And
I'm sitting saying I don't know where to get money from, wearing like a Hitman t-shirt that I got in the Euro shop. So for me apparently, but it's such a weird.
And don't forget
period to be. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
I was going to say it's such a weird period to be a wrestling fan as well, because it's if like I like to get your take on this one. One is so now like you've got the network, you can go back. You like the Bulldogs, so you can go back and watch them in their prime, or you can watch whatever tag team wrestling's doing today. You can go watch Stone Cold in his prime, or you can, and you've got every Raw, SmackDown, pay-per-view shows that you didn't see, like when it's that WWE unreleased stuff and that. You've got like tons of hours to watch. I think that's what's hurting today's product as well, is well, I can go watch Monday Night Nitro in its prime.
Yeah, and I think at the moment, though, as well, mate, I feel like, I mean, I don't know what you feel. Obviously, you've been through the same with myself. Is, do you know, when after when the Attitude Era was coming out of it, and we had the crap WCW invasion angle, which never went nowhere, and the poor NWO bit, and then after that, it kind of went rubbish for a while. And when you look back on it, you're seeing as your Lesners and all that wasn't them at the time. But we went through that transitional period, and for a bit we didn't have any kind of standout stars. And I feel that's where we're at the moment. I feel like we're kind of, in that transitional period where, like, for me, the PG era is over. Especially when you've got Roman Reigns turning around and saying it's like the missionary position, which was brilliant, by the way. But I don't, so I don't know what kind of era we're going into, but it does feel like we're in a transitional period at the moment to WWE.
Definitely, man. I think probably one of the worst mistakes they made was doing like that PG era, then what was it, the reality era or something like that they said. I think those two, well, since 2011, 10, 11-ish, wrestling's been on a gradual decline because there's not really any need for it. It's no pushing the envelope or anything. Like they're not causing emotion. The whole point of a wrestling show is to cause emotion in somebody. Like when Austin was out, everybody was cheering because he was beating the boss, and Vince came out, and then it was like, this guy is the most hated person. Then you had that way, kind of Brock Lesnar, Cena stuff. Like it happened wee bits here, but it was every match. No, every match, but like you remember Taker, Kane, Triple H, like just insane. Then you've got the NWO was the cool bad guys and stuff, but they don't really have that. And like you said, transition is here, but it's like, how long does it last for?
Well, how long does it last for, and how did he come out of it? Because I think the problem for me at the moment with WWE, and I think I'm one of these, mate. One thing I'll say before I start with this little ramble on it is I love wrestling. AEW, WWE. We see people online who want WWE to fail, some of them want AEW to fail. I want them to prospect, because the more they prospect, the better product we're going to get as a whole across the board, because they're going to push each other. Anybody who thinks it's another Monday Night War, it's not, right? TV ratings don't mean shit nowadays because there's all the online content to take into account and stuff like that. WWE will look at their money, and if they start dropping money in certain areas, or certain age demographics and whatever else, they'll start pushing for more again, and that's where they'll do it. But anyway, back to what I was saying, digress. WWE do not let a story play out. They pick them up, they drop them, and think that people are just going to forget about them, or they play them out right. At the moment, I think, as much as we're going through a transitional period, at the moment, there's light at the end of the tunnel for me. The head of the family storyline and the RK Bro one. They haven't rushed it. They could have rushed the titles onto RK Bro weeks ago, or they could, same with the head of the table story, they could have culminated that or whatever they wanted. But they're slowly building. Head of the table looks like it's going towards the Rock. I'd love to see maybe some of the other Fatus come into the WWE and kind of build that even more and make it last longer, maybe by 1 year. And the RK Bro story looks like it's starting to come up where it'll go to SummerSlam, and then however long that goes on after that before we see the two in Garden, and then I think that'll goes to the top of the cards then, which would be a great one as well. But anyway, as I say, I just feel like WWE over the last 2 years or so have kind of, how many stories have you seen them as picked them up and dropped them?
Man, it's insane. I think it's been longer than 2 years as well. Even if you look back at on SCW Steve's channel, which is another great YouTuber, is we do like watch along sometimes, or retro reviews. We done like a 2016 one, and it was like Dean Ambrose against AJ Styles, but it was like that was like based within a month, like just 1 month, and then that happened. But everybody else in the card was just like 2-3 weeks build up, or just like a week build up, and it was like, how long? They must just be like, people just don't have attention spans. I think that's just silly to think that, because you've got people. When you look at Rock Austin, how many years did that go on for? They had a Triple H, Austin, Taker, whatever. You've got these guys that told stories over years. Like,
I think the thing that WWE have lost out on big time is, I don't think people's attention spans have dropped. I think you hit the money right on the head there when you turn around and said, they just make me care. Make me care, and I'll follow the story. The Adam Page Kenny Omega one at the moment, I've been following that for months.
yeah.
And it's been brewing, it's coming, and you're like, when's it come? And now I'm like, really, really want to see that match. But they've made me care about that match. I really want to see it because I care. WWE don't make you care. And that's the problem.
I see, I'm not a big fan of Omega like on the mic and stuff like that. I don't like the Impact and AEW thing that they've got going on, but that match, I can't wait. The two of them are in the ring. They're ready to tie it up, because I know they'll do that 6-man tag match and they won't touch each other. Like, they'll make it so they don't touch, and then they'll eventually tie up, and it'll just be a pop for the tie-ups. You care, they've got you invested, but...
Because the thing is, mate, let's face it, right? If you've got kids the same as me, Barry, right? If you've got something in your hand and your kids want it, right? And you just go, yeah. 2 minutes later, you drop it on the floor because they're not interested in it then. But if they can't get it, you can't have that because it's dangerous or whatever it be. The more you take it of me, the more they want it. And that's what I feel like, in wrestling, it's got to be like that. Not all the time, but for the big ones, it's got to, because it's not, we know that it's a predetermined outcome. You've got to make us care about it. Hint at the matches, pull things. Look at the Austin. How many times was Austin like nearly there and then pulled away? And it was great viewing. It was even when they had the tournament when The Rock won his first championship. It was his Survivor Series, was it?
Aye, Survivor Series. I can't remember the year. 97, I think, maybe 8. I don't know.
98 or 99 it was. Everybody didn't see The Rock winning it, because he come from nowhere, but it was, oh no, Austin's not got to the top of the, and that's it. It works. Do you know what I mean? And I just feel like at the moment they don't, make me care about what you're doing. Tell me why I should care about this, instead of just turning around and going, John Cena's back. We got a pop because no one's seen him for a while. Do you know what I mean? When he was there all the time, nobody liked him. Do you know what I mean? Where now he's entered the realms of the upper legends, where it's like when he comes back, it's like, we're good to see you. But it's like, well, why have you come back? What's your problem with Roman Reigns? Why do you want to fight him? They've got a perfect story to tell there of, well, I want to win the record title or whatever else that is, but they're not telling it, and it's just like, here's Cena. Oh, he wants to fight him. Oh, great, we've got that match at SummerSlam. There's nothing that makes you care about it, mate, and that's the problem.
I always thought it was weird as well when he came out on Raw to say that he was coming out in SmackDown to talk to Roman Reigns, and I was like, why did you turn up here on Monday? That makes no sense. Just for the views, I forgot about that. But it's weird, like you said, it's just I don't know, it's a weird, like, it is a transition time in wrestling. Obviously, we've just come out of a pandemic, and that kind of stuff, we're still kind of coming out of it, but it's just like, we just, like, give us something, like, make us care. Like, see that the pandemic stuff, they could have made you buy into characters so much, like, make you care. Like, they fumbled Drew McIntyre, I think they fumbled Rhea Ripley's run with the WWE Championship. I made a video and it was like just before she lost it, so it was like 10 matches. 9 of them had Asuka and Charlotte Flair in it, either in a tag team way or singles, and one of them was Nikki Cross, who was that 2-minute beat the clock match. But that was 10 matches for your WWE Women's Champion, and then they've done the same thing with Nikki Cross. It's the same person, the same matches just after she's won it. It's just pointless.
Do you know the problem with WWE at the moment, mate, is they made it off for their own back, because one, they're not using the talent they've got now. If you think back to, I don't know where you've gone back and watched any of the old WWF wrestling challenges or superstars, you used to have Bret the Hitman Hart versus Tom Jones. He was just there playing pair of things, and he just gets squashed. And then Bret Hart's opponent for SummerSlam, Mr. Perfect, against Tom Williams. Do you know what I mean? Again, and he'd squash him. And they would not, they talked the match up, and it was all built into this pay-per-view. When nowadays, I feel like it's too much for ratings. They're constantly wanting them ratings, because I know they get a lot of money off the television networks, but it's like, why on earth, mate, do you have Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley? Sorry, not Charlotte Flair, was it at WrestleMania?
It was Rhea Ripley and Asuka, whatever her name is.
Asuka.
Aye.
And then you fucking redone it again on Monday Night Raw. Why?
I know, man. I think as well, we remember a time when WCW was still around, and you had your Monday Night Wars. You had to switch between both shows. You met two big wrestling companies that was good to watch. Like, you had good matches on both, and that's what AEW is. I'm hoping they're going to bring back into a bigger level than what they are just now, and it's that kind of just competitiveness between both companies. Now, we remember a time when I never wanted WCW to go to business. I found out by going to my local library, because back then it wasn't on the news and that. I had to go to my local library. Didn't have a computer in your house and stuff. And I typed in WCW because I wanted to see what Sting and Goldberg and that was doing. And it was like, WCW is no longer in business. And I was like, what? And then that's how I kind of found out that happened. But there was a time in wrestling, like I would probably 97 to like 2000, even when WCW was shit, it was you still had an option to choose between two and see good wrestlers.
I can see it getting to that point, mate. As I say, I don't see it being a Monday Night Wars again. But I do think WCW was way ahead of its time. And what I mean is, obviously, the product was anyway, because they were the first ones to do reality-based, which WWF followed and obviously took over them from. But in terms of, they didn't give a shit about pay-per-views. They didn't care. I know they were owned by a television network, but TV ratings was everything to them. And, I feel like now, for all companies, TV ratings means everything to them because they're all trying to impress the television executives at the retrospective channels. And I just feel like what they're both trying to do now, WWE, and AEW, is what Eric Bischoff had to contend with back in the day.
Definitely, man. I think it's a weird. I keep saying it's a weird time to be a wrestling fan because we've not seen anything like it. The in-ring talent's great, but for WWE, the storytelling is where it just falls apart. Like it really does. And then AEW's got good stories, good talent, but there is a disconnect between the casual fan. And I think it's just like, I think it was Kenter debuted, and it was like, I watched it with my partner, and she was like, don't know who that is, don't really care. And it was like, oh, he done this in Japan. And she was like, why would I care? And then somebody was like, oh, he was in NXT and done like a couple of matches. And I was like, she's not watching NXT. She's not watching, like, this is the first time she's watched AEW. She's not sitting down watching NXT because NXT is not for the casual fan. It's for people that are into wrestling, and then the casual person to come into that, and then they'll use NXT to discover the independents, AEW and stuff like that as well. But I don't know. I thought we were talking about selling WWE. An idea I was thinking was WWE is just getting that big that they'll be able to sell their sale, but Vince will be like, oh, NXT stays with like the family or something, moves away, makes all this money, and then just moves NXT. But that's wishful thinking because I'll never have him. And also,
no, I think whoever buys them will probably get Triple H and Stephanie as part of the deal because I feel like they need them. Because let's face it, wrestling's a different beast than any other kinds of television production, isn't it? So you would need to keep them kinds of key players in the right spots.
Man, like you as well, I always tell people I love wrestling. I think it's the best sport in the world. Like, it's got everything you need in it. It's a TV show, and it's also athletic, it's hardcore, it's deathmatch, it's technical, it's everything that you can imagine. On one place, you can get love stories to Snitsky kicking a baby, do you know what I mean? Like, everything's there.
May Young giving birth to a glove.
Everything's there, and it's just like, why would you know like this? And I just, where it is just now, it hurts to see how low it is. There's obviously been lower points before as well, but at the minute, it feels like it's got something, but it's just waiting for that moment when you've got Roman Reigns there, and then you've got Omega on the other side, so they're starting to build, and it's like it's just waiting for that wee spark to just blow up. But heading towards the end of the pay-per-view, I was going to say, podcast, is 3 questions, man. So I sent you 2 over. One that I don't send you because I like to watch you hum and haw and call me out. People have called me names and stuff like that because they normally struggle with this one. But, well, can I have a discussion on these ones? Because I always like asking these questions. So the first one is, who's your favourite wrestler ever? Now, you can give me 2, 3, 5, whatever.
Dynamite Kid.
Man, I've never been a big Dynamite fan. I think because of my age range, like he was away by the time I was into wrestling. But going back and watching the kind of old stuff, you can kind of see how much influence he had on that kind of attitude era stuff as well.
Innovator, mate. He was an innovator, and if you look at Benoit and Bret Hart, they all tell you how good he was. I mean, if you've never seen his matches with Tiger Mask, you need to watch them, mate, because talk about chain wrestling and everything else that goes in his sphere. It's just brilliant. So yeah, that for me, he was the ultimate man for me, and obviously him being one of our UK own, you know what I mean? It's like when I was a little kid, all I wanted to be was Dynamite or Davey.
Definitely, man. I've went back and watched some of his stuff, but again, it's that kind of time period of before when I was really enjoying wrestling.
Attitude era. Obviously, it's got to be The Rock. You know, beyond that, well, it's just like ever since he was, because I remember him in his Rocky Maivia days as well. But ever since he joined the Nation, he just had everything, didn't he? Comedy, seriousness. He'd kick people's heads in. You know, he was the. If WWE were trying to be something now, it's what The Rock was in 98, 99. He was for everybody, and that's what, you know, obviously what they're trying to do today. He was just perfect, wasn't he?
Definitely. I liked The Rock and stuff like that, but it was later on when now I got into him a little bit, but my mum used to have a poor crush on him, so I was like, nah, this guy just not like doing it. Like, I'm like, nah, don't like him at all. So anybody who was up, I was always more like a Taker, Austin. My last name's Kane, so when I was a kid playing wrestling, I was always Kane, which I'm not that tall, which is weird, but I like all those kind of guys better, those kind of styles, hard hitting, that kind of stuff. But Rock he's probably one of the biggest stars that's ever came out of wrestling, along with, like I've just mentioned, a bunch of these guys with that Attitude Era are always going to live in the hearts of everybody for a long time.
Yeah, definitely.
And what about today, man? What's somebody you would recommend somebody to watch today? For me, it would be, I don't even know. I was going to say Adam Page, but his Dark Order stuff isn't that great. But probably, I don't know. Who would your one be for today?
Do you know Matt Riddle, mate? I think since he's come to the main roster, he's great. You know, the comedy stuff's really good, but he can actually wrestle. He's a good wrestler, but I say, don't forget me, he kicked heads in the UFC. He was really good in the UFC as well, so he's a credible threat to people if they booked him right. But if you go back and actually watch him wrestle, he's a good wrestler. And I think, don't get me wrong, I don't see him being The Rock or nothing, but he's got that same thing where I feel like he can do the comedy, but then I feel there's still another layer to him that we haven't seen yet. So I suggest go and watch him now, because I feel like there's a story that's going to unfold with him.
Definitely, man. I think Riddle's, like you said, in UFC was great as well. And then obviously the whole cannabis thing and that was still around there, and it's insane to see where America is now. But he's obviously happy doing wrestling in WWE. But he's a great. I love watching his stuff. Since he first came to NXT, because I knew him from the Indies as well. I watched him in there, and then when he first came, I was like, I love this guy. And I know people don't really like him, but I'm like, he's got everything just now, and he's different. He has that MMA look as well, with the no shoes on, brings in different aspects, and he can legit kick the shit out of people, which is fun to see, obviously, because you can believe that he can beat the shit out of you, unlike some people in wrestling at the minute.
I feel like they're on there shooting him towards the top end of the card, and as I say, I don't think he'll get all the way there with this bro happy gimmick, but I do think that there's more layers to him that they just haven't unravelled yet.
Definitely. Mine's just now is Damian Priest, man. That's a guy that I think I've watched him for years, and he's fantastic everywhere he goes. And he's just, the zombie thing, just forget that. But everything else has been great. But like the number one contender match, his wrestling's good. The stories that he's been put in haven't been good, but I think he's going to be huge.
No, I really like Damien, and when I seen him the other night with Sheamus, I was like, yes, he's finally getting into a good feud with a good man to face, because Sheamus is brilliant. You know, he's been around a long time, so sometimes he goes a bit stale with people, but he's a never stay, and he's solid, and he's good at building people. I thought after the Bad Bunny stuff, I felt sorry for Damien Priest, because I thought, like, well, he carried Bad Bunny through all that frigging thing, and then it was like, oh, but he's gone. There you go, you're gone. But now that they've kind of brought him back into a nice feud again, I'm happy for him, and I think he deserves it.
Definitely, man. And second question is, what's your favourite event of all time? What's an event you can put on and just watch? Is it SummerSlam 92?
I'd say, yeah, SummerSlam 1992. And do you know what? All that's for me is the entrances when I was a kid. And you had LOD on the motorbikes, the Undertaker on the hearse, and awesome, really awesome. But for actual wow factor, and I don't know whether you've seen this one yourself, but Canadian Stampede. that crowd in that match, mate, was just. I always think to myself, I'd really love to be there. And no matter how many times I go back and watch it, just the atmosphere and everything, just like, do you know when you say a crowd jumps through the screen? That's one for me.
Is that the WWF Canadian Stampede one? Because
yeah,
has a great Mankind and Hunter Hearts Soundsley match on it as well.
Yeah, that's a brilliant card.
The whole card is just good, but the main event is the In Your House at that time was really good because it had quite close to that. I don't know if it was before or after, and it was the Fatal 4-Way with Vader, Austin, Taker, and Bret Hart. Final.
Just afterwards, I think that was.
That's a fantastic match. If nobody's seen, that's probably one of the best 4-way matches that they've done in WWE for a long time. Go check it out. That whole time as well, they just try to do different matches and stuff as well. And they had
slowly but surely build, wasn't it? And then I think WrestleMania 14, I want to say, was really good one with Austin versus Michaels, just for what it meant.
Yeah.
Just because that was the changing of the guard, wasn't it? You know what I mean? That, for me, that was the start of the Attitude Era. I know people will say which when DX started and stuff like that. For me, really, it was like after that Austin and Mike Tyson there and all that was really off to the races, you know.
Definitely. I'd even go a little bit sooner than that as well. Like now, like no, that was when that was a minute. When it changed, that was the bit when obviously the Michaels was in DX, but when he left, that was when DX became DX, like as we know today. And Austin was just there. Like I always forget Shawn Michaels was in DX because I don't know. Obviously they done cool stuff. It was a different DX, and then when he left, it became like the one that we know, driving up to the WCW thing. So it's pretty.
Someone asked a question on I done this thing the other day, like I do some writing for Wrestling Buddy. Shout out to them guys, they're brilliant. And I've done like a top 5 promotional moves. And one of the things that people don't realise that much is Ravishing Rick Rude. Ravishing Rick Rude was in both factions. He was in DX and he was in the NWO. And that was because he was in the early days where he was kind of like, I don't know, like the solicitor or something for them, wasn't he? And not people always forget that.
Man, I'm a huge Rick Rude fan. I've went back. I love his WCW run in 93, 92. I'm a huge Rick Rude fan. He has great matches. If anybody wants to talk about Rick Rude, I'm your guy because I love the guy's work. But he was like, he had like the suit on and stuff like that. But it was weird because it was the same night, wasn't it? He was in NWO and then the same night went to DX.
Yeah, he appears on both shows on the same night. Because back then Raw was taped and Nitro was live. So,
man, I'm doing watch-alongs in like 1996 just now, reviews, and it's like it's so weird because WCW are always like, oh, this is happening on another show, and it's like it was 96 and we're still doing it in like 97. You're like, surely you would have learned like just to change it or something.
When you turn around and said about Foley winning the title, and it was like because of them saying that, all the viewers dropped off and went to Raw and watched it anyway. And it was like, you know, they say they give them the biggest rating spike because they told them, so they actually bit them on the ass on that one, didn't they?
I think that was the reason why they held out for it, wasn't it? That was the moment that wrestling became mainstream, I would say. Like, see if you... There was literally in the newspaper, I remember, as well, with like Mankind winning. And it was like, why could you... How did you not notice this was going to just change the wrestling? Obviously, had the NWO stuff and that was building it to fever. But then that bit just, like, sent it because Rock Austin, that stuff was all happening towards just after that time as well, which is...
What you've got to remember is in 97, 98, the Rock wasn't a main eventer at that point. So Austin was at the top and he was feuding with like Undertaker and Kane and a few others and stuff like that. The Rock was actually feuding with Triple H for the IC title at that point, and their matches were brilliant, mate. It was absolutely fantastic. And that's when we had the Nation versus the X kind of feud going on as well, where obviously Austin was up with McMahon and stuff at the time. So by the time the Rock got up there, it was brilliantly timed and well done, you know.
Definitely. They have a great, Rock and Triple H have a great ladder match at SummerSlam, which is a hidden gem because a lot of people don't even know they had it. But final question, man, the one that everybody either hates me for or they know the answer straight away. So what I'll do is I'll tell you the question, I'll tell you what my answer would be, and then we can go into it for there. So if you could add yourself to or replace anyone in any match in history, what would it be? So for me, it would be SummerSlam 94, Blue Steel Cage, Bret against Owen. I would replace Owen, if I could wrestle as good as Owen Hart, just to have that experience in that cool Blue Steel Cage with Bret Hart would be fantastic. But what would your one be?
Easy, mate. Bret has replaced Bulldog at SummerSlam 92.
I thought you were going to. I thought you were going to pick one.
Wembley Stadium, all them, fans who were all there for you as well. Because they were all there for Baby, do you know what I mean? And it was much as everyone loves Bret Hart, it was like he was the hometown guy and walking out in front of your people. Oh, made me magic, that, wouldn't it?
Man, that's probably the quickest answer that we've had on that question, because it's either people get it straight away or there's just I love watching them.
I totally get the Owen Hart one, mate. What a match that was. I'd say the WrestleMania 9 one's one of my personal favourites because just technically between the two of them, just awesome.
I think there's there's just so much wrestling stuff you can go back and watch as well, and I think that's, like I was saying, is one of the reasons why wrestling is can be hurting at the minute as well, because you can go watch whatever you want on network, YouTube at any time, but we're wrestling fans. We deal with the shit, we deal with the good stuff, and we still watch it because we love it. That's why we do it.
And one thing I always remember when it comes to wrestling, all these fucking AEW people, AEW for life or WWE for life. Remember, there's fucking Pepsi and Coke, mate. Two big brands can live at once together, do you know what I mean? So stop all this saying, they're going to beat them, Fuck it, as I say, Pepsi and Coke, they live together hand in hand. So, Nestle and Cadbury's is another one, isn't it?
I just want to see two big wrestling shows back that we can sit down and enjoy it and have fun watching, and we can critique. That's the whole point of doing YouTube shows. What if you're doing reviews, critiquing it? But it's just fun when we can do it. Like when it's just, there was a long period it was just WWE. People can say TNA, but they weren't doing anything really. Had good matches, but they weren't doing anyone there what WWE was doing. It was just them for years. So it's just, you think people are 20 this year that when WCW shut down, so they've not known anything other than WWE. So it's hard to change perspectives.
Yeah, and that's where I think the kind of demo that AEW going after the 30 to 40 age range, probably a good age range for them, especially with the kind of sound they've got like Jericho and stuff. But hopefully by then bring it over us. As I say, Baz, I think you're totally right in it's going to be a slow burner because the likes of me and you will introduce our kids to AEW at some point potentially. And then, our kids will grow up a little bit and they'll introduce their kids. So it's going to take a generation, it'll take a good 10 years, I reckon, for it to be all the way up there. But as long as they keep doing the content, at the end of the day, content is king, you know what I mean? So if they build the content, people will come and watch.
Definitely, man. So we're at the end of the podcast. I've got your links in the description below. Is there anywhere you want people to go to first to check you out? Do you want them to go to your Facebook group, your Twitter, or is there a video you want them to go check out?
Go and check out my video on YouTube of me interviewing Steve DWC Moran's from WWE Most Wanted Treasures. Cracking guy. He's got a good Facebook group as well. And also, my Facebook group, I'm really active on my Facebook group. I say it really annoys me when people make these groups and they don't let people post anything. Your post has to go through admin request and let them approve it and stuff. None of that crap on my group. It's come in there, throw what you want on, and let's just have a laugh and do what we it should be for everybody, not people saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that." So yeah, guys, great wrestling fans on Facebook, and obviously check out the vids. Hopefully, I'll have a lot more vids up as well soon. So,
cool, man. So what I'll do is I'll end the podcast here, and I'll tell you the aftercare information after the show, obviously.